We've all heard about the placebo effect. We've all heard about the nocebo effect and how our beliefs literally changes our biology. Now, what if I told you that your beliefs can literally change more than your biology? It can actually change your income. This is what we're going to speak about today, because your identity following a specific psychological chain link that I've coined will naturally change your income. This is what my client Mustafa has done, going from 1K in his bank account when we started working together to today closing $800,000 deal. He closed multiple six-figure deals every single week. This is how my client Olivier went from purposeless lawyer to making 30 to 50K per month and attracting $10 million deals. And this is what my client Maxim did, going from a 44-year-old burnout construction worker knowing nothing about online businesses and social media to having more than 29K followers and making thousands of dollars every single day and being a public speaker for hundreds of men around the world. Now, you're a smart entrepreneur, you're a smart investor. You've invested in the courses, you've invested in the coaches, you've invested in the mentorships. But right now, you don't need more knowledge. You don't need a better strategy. You don't need more marketing, more sales. It's not that made you successful. What made you successful with a coaching or a mentor is because you trusted the authority that gave you the permission to take the actions that you knew you needed to do. Let me go a bit deeper. It wasn't necessarily the new knowledge that made you successful and that allowed you to have results. It's because an authority that had the results that you wanted, that you trusted, gave you the permission to finally take action. And therefore, the energy behind the action that you took was completely different if you were to take that action alone. That is exactly what the Pygmalion effect is. The Pygmalion effect is literally a trusted authority that you look at and you put somewhat on a pedestal that tells you, do this, trust me, it's going to work. And then you do the things that you know you should be doing that you would have done alone anyways, but now it works because it's the energy and the belief behind the action that works. Why is it so? Well, simply because you need to understand the fabric of reality. The fabric of reality on the subatomic level is comprised of what we call vibrating conscious fields. Which means what? Essentially, to make it simple for the newbies out there, essentially the fabric of reality is made of consciousness. Now, why is this so interesting? Well, simply because you are a conscious being, right? Every single thought that you think, every single emotion that you feel, send out a specific signal into the universe, which is consciousness. So your consciousness essentially interacts with the fabric of reality, with the consciousness around you. So obviously, as you elevate the signal in which you send out to the universe every single day, the universe reflects back to you a better image. So essentially, when you elevate your state of consciousness, your identity, naturally the fabric of reality is going to get that back to you. This is why placebo effect works. This is why your beliefs changes your results, changes your biology, and why you got results with a coach or a mentor that you couldn't get on your own. This is why the Pygmalion effect works. You already have the knowledge that will get you to 100K per month, $1 million a month, multiple million per month. You already have the knowledge because you've been grinding for years. It's not more knowledge, it's not more marketing, better sales, better tactics that is going to get you to the next level. The true shift that is going to unlock a new income reality is this psychological chain link that I'm going to refer to today and I'm going to share with you today, because it all stems from your state of consciousness, because your state of consciousness is the thing that every single day, every single instant of every single day interacts with the fabric of reality. I want you to imagine this life literally like a video game. You constantly interact with the fabric of reality around you depending on your state of consciousness, so aka an identity on the psychological side. So again, it's not more marketing, it's not more sales, it's not the better tactic, it's the energy behind, the belief behind, the psychological state of mind behind the action that you take that will make you successful. It's the same thing with sales calls. You can learn the best script in the world, but if you deliver the pitch in a non-confident manner, is the prospect going to buy? No. You know this because sometimes prospects just buy with your flow because you're so confident in your product, you're so confident you can change their life, you're so confident in what you sell, and therefore it's the energy that does the selling. It's your aura, it's your electromagnetic field. It's not the sales tactic or the objection handling or anything like that. Why do you think that my clients have no objection handling? Or obviously sometimes they have, but for most of the time there's no objection handling, simply because their aura, their electromagnetic field, and their state, their identity, their state of consciousness is so strong that naturally the prospect in front of them have no choice but to trust them because they feel the energy. We are not just verbal entities of flesh. We are much more than that. We feel people. We're walking electromagnetic fields, okay? You do not operate in a closed systems. Your thoughts do not stop at your skull. They permeate into the universe and into the fabric of reality, which is why you can measure your brain waves with an electroencephalogram. And the same way with your heart, you can measure the heart waves and the magnetism of your heart with an electrocardiogram, okay? Cool. Stop buying another course, stop buying another coach, stop buying another mentor before you listen and you take notes on this psychological chain link that is going to, by the end of this video, change your entire perspective on how you make money. First and foremost, you have your identity or your state of consciousness. Why is that so? Simply because how you perceive yourself or your self-concept will determine your confidence, okay? So self-concept will determine your confidence and your certainty and your conviction, okay? If you look at all the greatest leader, conviction. If you look at all the greatest leader in the world, what do they all have in common? They have conviction, right? That's why they become leaders. That's why people listen to them. And the conviction, the certainty, and the confidence is common traits to all leaders. So your self-concept needs to be improved. Now, when was the last time that be more confident, bro, helped you? It didn't, right? So we need to go deeper because identity in of it itself is comprised of many different things. But I want just you to understand that when you change your self-concept and once you change how you perceive yourself deeply on the neurological subconscious level, then this is what is going to change. Because it's important to understand that your identity is literally determined by your subconscious mind, okay? So your subconscious mind, as a reminder, dictates 95% of how you think, okay? How you feel, how you speak and what you speak of, and what you do on a day-to-day basis, okay? So essentially, your subconscious mind literally dictates all the planes of existence, because thinking is the mental plane, right? Mental plane. Feeling is the emotional or spiritual plane, because it's the heart, and the heart is the organ of the soul. This is why scientists were puzzled for years, because the heart appears before the brain, right? So materialist scientists were like, how the fuck does this happen? Essentially because they, the materialist science, they say, okay, the brain is the producer of consciousness, which is completely utterly bullshit. But they say the brain is essentially the command center and producer of consciousness. This is why we think we have a soul, but we don't. That's bullshit. The brain is a filter of consciousness. It's the same thing with your body. It's a filter of consciousness. You decided to incarnate as a divine, unlimited, infinite soul into this third dimensional realm to play the physical game. So feel, speak, obviously it's the physical, and do it's the physical as well, right? So essentially, your subconscious mind dictates your identity. Everybody on the internet and their mother and their grandmother tells you, oh, you need to reprogram your subconscious mind. But what the fuck does that actually mean? Well, the subconscious mind has literally started to be programmed in the belly of your mother and from 0 to 7 years old. Now, were you conscious enough in the belly of your mother and from 0 to 7 years old to choose your own programming? No. Unfortunately, for most of us, our ancestors didn't have the same beliefs and didn't have the same programming, and they injected the same programming into us. And the problem is, it's like their programming is completely misaligned with our goals, right? It's kind of like the same thing for most of us, right? Obviously, there's people that have been born in top 0.0001% rich families that are absolutely aligned with what their soul's mission wants to do. But for most of us, it's not the case, right? We haven't been born into super crazy rich family where we don't have any limiting beliefs about money, right? Usually limiting beliefs about money would be, oh, money doesn't grow on trees. Oh, making money is hard, or you need to work hard to make money. Well, motherfucker, if working hard was the solution for you to make money, why would streamers, YouTubers make millions of dollars while my construction worker client, he was breaking his fucking back for a few $1,000s a month? Doesn't make sense, right? So it's not working hard, it's not working smart either, because even if you're working smart, I've had plenty of very high IQ clients that were still dead broke because either one, they didn't have the right leverage, either two, they didn't have the right self-concept and confidence and therefore didn't attract the right synchronicities, opportunities in their lives, etc., etc., etc. This is a topic for another time. Essentially, you've been programmed by your ancestors. It's kind of like trying to run GTA 6 with 8K graphics on the Windows XP. It's fucking impossible. The computer would crash. But in this case, you are the computer with your obsolete negative subconscious limiting beliefs, and GTA 6 is the goal, the $1 million month, the $10 million month, the $50 million network, whatever it is, okay? So essentially, your subconscious mind is fucking you over, but that's a story for another time, okay? I have made plenty of YouTube videos and videos on my Instagram at I am Hugo Christensen, where you can start to reprogram your subconscious mind. So essentially, once you have a better identity, you've worked on your self-concept because you've reprogrammed your subconscious mind, you're starting to do that, then what's going to happen naturally, it's going to be changing your, what we call your perception. Now, what does it mean? Well, essentially, your brain at every single second of every single day receives 11 million bits of information per second, okay? That's your brain. But now, obviously, do you really think that you could handle all this information with your brain or with the state of consciousness in which you're in? No. So this is why your brain filters out 11 million bits of information per second, right? So you filters out 11 million bits and only allows you to see 40 to 50 bits per second, right? In your conscious mind. So essentially all of this, the 11 million bits, is stuck or is stacked in your subconscious. And this is stacked in your conscious. Now, we all know that the conscious mind represents 5% of the brain, right? I would argue that it's less than that because the subconscious mind is so fucking powerful. But either way, my point is, your identity will determine your perception. How? Well, basically, because if you perceive yourself as a badass motherfucker or a very confident investor, confident entrepreneur, then obviously you're going to be perceiving better opportunities or more opportunities than the one that doesn't even believe in himself, right? That's why, for instance, two entrepreneurs, right? You have entrepreneurs, let's say, let me grab a red one. Let's say you have entrepreneur A and entrepreneur B, right? This is B and this is A. Essentially, if this guy doesn't have any confidence and he has a bad identity, then he will not perceive the $1 million opportunities his way, right? But on the other side, entrepreneur B, if he's confident, he has a better self-concept, he will be able to perceive the $1 million opportunity and take action on those. Your perception is aligned with your identity. Typically, when you buy a red car, at first you thought nobody had a red car, but the moment you buy it, it now is part of your identity and who you are and who you perceive yourself to be. Now you start to see red cars everywhere, right? That's why how your identity and everything that comprises your identity changes your perception, and your perception is aligned with your identity. So essentially, it's going to confirm back your identity. You see what I mean? So essentially, what I'm trying to tell you is that if you perceive yourself already as a millionaire, what is going to happen? You're going to have the perception of a millionaire. And the perception, right, with what we call in neuroscience the salience network, is going to confirm back your identity. Because your salience network is literally primed by your identity and search to reconfirm constantly who you are. Okay? So this is why your identity changes your perception. This will literally determine if you see $1 million opportunities, if you see where you can get the best type of clients or not. Then this perception obviously leads to different types of thoughts, right? Thoughts. Because if you constantly, like entrepreneur B, if you constantly perceive $1 million opportunities, right? Then obviously over time you're gonna have thoughts of abundance. Those thoughts of abundance are going to stack up, stack up, stack up. On the contrary, entrepreneur A doesn't have a lot of confidence, he doesn't perceive a lot, and he thinks he's a loser, he hasn't reprogrammed his subconscious mind, so therefore his traumas are dictating his behavior, dictating his brain and how he perceives himself, right? Then he's going to have feelings of guilt, of shame, of not feeling good enough, even have a big month and then have the imposter syndrome, self-sabotaging himself, etc., etc., etc. This is why entrepreneur A doesn't have the right identity, will constantly self-sabotage even though he has a big month. On the contrary, entrepreneur B is going to always create a positive upward spiral, okay? So essentially, your identity creates your perceptions. Your perceptions, obviously, if you look at the world and you see abundance everywhere, you're going to create thoughts of abundance. For entrepreneur B, for instance, right? This creates over time, this creates drastically different emotions, right? Because when you think the same thoughts over and over again, usually what happens, it creates an emotion. Typically, if you have thoughts of anger and you think of how people have been unjust, how you feel frustrated over and over and over again, then at one point it's going to create such an emotion that you will want to punch the wall, for instance, right? But it's the same thing with the positive thoughts and positive emotions. As you think thoughts of abundance, then your emotions are going to feel better. You're going to feel better about yourself. That's going to lead to either serenity on one side, right? Serenity, gratitude, all of those positive emotions. Or on the other side, it's going to lead to, when you think of misery and stuff like that, sadness, grief, apathy. Apathy is the worst type of emotion that you can have as an entrepreneur, which is why many multi-millionaire entrepreneurs come to see me, because they're burned out and they're apathetic and they don't want to run their business anymore because they have like literally squeezed the joy out of their business because they thought money would make them happy. But again, guys, nothing external can fill the inner void, okay? It's always going to be the inner work first that is going to lead to this chain link of events. By the way, this is the psychological chain link, but I will do a video on the neurological chain link, and I will do especially a video on the invisible, metaphysical, and vibrational chain link, which is the most important part. But essentially, it's the same thing, right? It's identity equals income. So your emotions obviously are going to dictate your state, right? Your state, your emotional state. Essentially, what you vibrate at every single day, right? What's your vibration, right? And again, remember that the universe, symbolized by an eye, the universe reflects back to you what you give it as a state, as an electromagnetic field. So if your state is good, right, you're going to have more money coming back to you in different forms. Now, it may take some time depending on your soul's mission, what you've decided to incarnate into this earth to do. But over time, when your electromagnetic field is good and you align yourself, if you haven't watched my video on Instagram about alignment, do so. But essentially, once you do that, you get back opportunities or synchronicities linked to your goals. Now, obviously, if you don't do that, and if you're sending out every single instant of every single day bad vibes, right, to the universe, then obviously you're not going to have anything, right? Or even worse, you're going to have things that are going to drag you down, because nothing stays still. It's either upward spiral or negative spiral. Your state will determine what? It determines your decisions, right? We've all taken decisions from a place of fear and from a place of inspiration. Which one usually yields the best results? Well, you guessed it, right? Every time we take decisions out of a reaction, right? Reaction usually leads to meh results, right? To somewhat results. But when we take decisions from a place, from a state of inspiration, right? Inspiration, what happens then, right? We get positive results, right? Because it's kind of like we've been struck by genius, by a lightning of intuition. Boom, we're inspired, we take action, and there we go. Usually it yields better results. Why is that? Again, because it's the energy behind the action that is the most important part. It's not the tactic, it's not the strategy. This is why you've bought courses where people were like, oh, it's the best course ever, and you bought the course and you were like, okay, I applied and it didn't necessarily work, because it's the energy behind. You need to change your energy. I'm telling you, the most powerful people and the most successful people that I've coached and that have completely drastically changed their lives when it comes to income, health, wealth, relationship, whatever it is, happiness even, is because we completely rewired their identity, and therefore their energy is completely different. And when your energy is completely different, weirdly enough, the universe is like, okay, he tuned into a higher frequency, I'm going to give him back the corresponding higher program of reality, okay, because you're a spiritual radio. Cool. So, essentially, this state is going to lead to better decisions, and obviously those better decisions, what are they going to lead to? Better actions, okay? Yes, because I'm sorry to all of you spiritual woo-woo motherfuckers, you decided to incarnate into this third dimensional realm to play the physical game. So actions are required at first. I'm not saying like when you vibrate at such a high level and your state of consciousness is the one of enlightenment, then obviously it's more of being is just enough. But until then, which is not a lot of people are going to be able to reach that level in a lifetime, you need to take action, right? But again, action doesn't mean hard work, okay? We're not speaking about hard work here. If you were at the low level identity, like the 99% of the masses, right? I'm sorry to tell you guys, but even entrepreneurs, even investors that are watching my content, you operate from the 99% mass identity. It's not good enough. And this is where you feel like everything is hard work, okay? This is why you feel like it's hard work. Actions do not mean hard work. When you operate from the anomaly identity, 0.1% anomaly identity, what happens then? You love entirely the process, and therefore you don't take hard work or you don't do hard work. It's just a matter of loving flow. flow from a place of love, right? You love the process. Everything happens naturally. It flows naturally, and everything is fun. Okay, it's fun, literally. And this comes from a guy, by the way. This comes from a guy that was absolutely miserable, depressed. I had suicidal thoughts when I was working in a corporate job back in Canada for the government of Canada at the time. I was absolutely depressed, and it was when I had my near-death experience, my stroke, that I understood all of this, and that I started working heavily on myself. And after 9 years of research on neuroscience, quantum physics, metaphysics, psychobiology, consciousness, the study of NDEs, working with hundreds of entrepreneurs, founders, multimillionaires, that I've discovered this psychological chain link of reality causation. And obviously this will lead to drastically different results, right? Drastically different results. So on the other side, you're going to have a bunch of income results, right? And on the other side, you're going to have nada, niet, or it's going to be like one, right? A bit of money. Okay? It's extremely important to understand, guys, everything starts from your identity. And obviously, once you have those results, that's the worst or the best part. Once you start having those new results, there's going to be either a positive feedback loop or a negative feedback loop. Okay? Your results are going to essentially further cement your identity. This is why it's so ugly for those of you who are part of the 99% identity. And when I'm saying 99% of identity, it's not an insult or anything like that. It's for you to understand that if you are not where you want to be in life in terms of income, and you seem to constantly struggle month after month, it's because it's an identity problem. You already have all the knowledge, you already have the marketing, the sales, and all of that, right? So it's an identity problem. It's nothing else. So essentially, most of you watching this video, unfortunately, you are here, right? So essentially, the identity is not good enough. The perception is like so-so. Your thoughts are like a mix of scarcity and sometimes good, but you're up and down, and that's the problem. Your emotions are like up and down as well. You can't stay constant with your emotions. Your state, essentially the vibration around you, the signal is a bit static, and your decisions, you make some decisions out of a place of, I don't really know, I hope it works. And hope is actually a very bad signal for the universe, because it's like, it shows that you don't have it. It so shows essentially that you don't trust yourself enough to make things work. When you're a holographic incarnation of the divine consciousness, aka God, you're literally a child of God. And for those of you who are religious, don't come at me about, it was only Jesus that was the child of God. He even said, the kingdom of heaven is within you. We're all childs of God, okay? So calm down on that. But either way, my point is, once you operate from a state of hope, well, obviously the decisions are like a place of unsure, and then your actions come from a place of insecurity, because insecurity is not just like, not feeling good about yourself. Insecurity is like, it's essentially when what's not 100% convinced or certain is insecurity, right? And obviously, boom, that gets your different types of results. Now, you may say, okay, well, I just need to change my actions and then my decisions. No. The thing is, you can try to change your actions, your decision, your states for one day, but you always fall back to your level of identity. You do not rise to the levels of your goals, you fall to the level of your identity, okay? This is why you need to absolutely reprogram your subconscious mind and your identity, and not in the way you think. Entrepreneur B, his perception is one of abundance, right? So he has thoughts of millions, therefore his state is one of a strong electromagnetic field that sends out to the universe, comes back to him. Obviously, his decisions are from a place of certainty, which is extremely powerful and attractive for the universe. Therefore, his actions are fueled with divine energy, because literally you're a divine being, and therefore he has crazy results. Okay, guys? This is literally how your identity changes your perception, which change your thoughts, emotions, states, decisions, actions, and therefore your results. This is why you haven't had the result that you wanted, even though you've bought the best courses, the best mentors, and the best coaches. Okay? It's only via the identity that works. So stop buying more tactics. You already have the knowledge. You need to change who you fundamentally are. Okay? The reason you saw success with a book, with a course, with a coach, with a mentor, I repeat, is because of the placebo effect, and more so the Pygmalion effect, because you believed that because it worked for them and they're a trusted authority that you loved and that you believed and trusted deeply in your heart, your action that they told you to do then came from a place of certainty and conviction. This is why you got, for 1 month or 2 during the mentorship, you got positive results, right? But if you want them to be continuous over and over again, you cannot just stop here, right? This is what you do with most business coaches, for instance. They just stop here, right? They make you feel, okay, you know what? You're going to make it. Don't worry. Boom. You feel positive. You take decisions from a place of certainty. Boom. You take action, and then you get better results. But at the end of the day, once the mentorship stops, what happens then? Your identity comes back, right? And then boom, 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 breaks it down, and then bad actions, bad results. If you want something that is long-term, it's about changing your identity completely. Change your identity and you'll change your income and your reality.